right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook.
It is a Thursday evening and another edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Welcome aboard here in the Fan Cave, Pittsburgh CW, along with 93.7 The Fan, simulcast up there, 93.7 The Fan. Andrew Fillipponi from the PM team joins me. And Pony, good evening. Number one, I want to talk about a game that's still in progress, but Minnesota-Pittsburgh. This is the kind of playoff hockey and the kind of physicality I think the Penguins are going to meet in what is a long and arduous road to a championship. 4 best-of-7 series. Minnesota's very physical with them tonight, and Jason Zucker, on the night he returns and figures in on the first goal, suffers what looks like a very serious injury.
Yeah, on a play that probably did need to happen. You could tell from watching it that Bob Airey took exception. There was a shove there. Hates those type of plays. So do I. You know, against his former team, no less. You'd think that there would be more, I don't know, not as much of that kind of dirty play when you've got a former teammate, probably with friends still on that team. So, yeah, that was a bummer tonight. You know, Zucker's going to be an X-Factor type player for the Penguins. So to see that, Bob, you know, really kind of makes your heart melt in a way, because he's a player that could have a huge impact on the Penguins. You're watching that game, and you're seeing Casey DeSmith against Talbot, and I'm thinking, man, I would have enjoyed this game so much more if it was Fleury against Jarry. I was a bit disappointed that even with the off game in between for the Penguins, that we did not get Fleury and Jarry tonight, Bob.
Yeah. Well, listen, Cam Talbot's been their number one goalie, and I think will remain their number one goalie. He's also won 8 in a row coming into this game.
Really?
Yeah, he's a pretty talented
guy.
Wow,
you think game 1 of the playoffs is going to be Talbot over Fleury, huh?
I do.
Wow.
I do. And for now, I mean, unless something changes and his play drops off, but he's been their guy.
Who do you think's the better goalie?
Well, I think obviously Fleury has more history on his side, but I think they really like Cam Talbot, and I think they've played him as much as they could.
Well, good for them, but I think Fleury's better, don't you? I think they're making a mistake there if that's what they end up doing in the playoffs.
They brought Marc-Andre Fleury in for depth just in case. He'll play, but I don't think he'll be the chosen one over Talbot. That's just my opinion based on what I think they think of Cam Talbot. And that's fine, and Fleury likes that role anyway. He could sit there and he could be the guy who comes in when they need him, and he'll be terrific if that happens. But I really believe that, if anything at this point, it'll be a shared thing going into the playoffs, but I know they like Talbot. In the meantime, you know, if Zucker is out now, that leaves them into kind of a precarious position, don't you think? They traded away Simone, not that he's a big contributor, but he's depth. They traded away Aston Reese. You know, Zucker really makes them a better team in so many ways, because it puts Rodriguez on a third line with Kapanen, with Carter. To me, that's a better line than what the third line was before Zucker, and a fourth line that could be very good at what they do as well. So this depth is a real issue, Andrew, and every time you go into a playoffs, man, you need this kind of depth, especially on the blue line, because there are going to be injuries there too.
Yeah. Well, my thing on that is, Bob, I don't think Zucker is the difference between winning a cup and not winning a cup. I call him an X factor. I do think he adds depth and extends their scoring potential. They gave up a first-round pick to get him a couple of years ago, so he does have that. We saw him in Minnesota. He's a guy that can score 30 goals in a season and play on a top line. But look, this team won a Stanley Cup without Chris Letang. Okay, to me, you've got it or you don't. And so I don't think Zucker is the type of player that is going to affect my prediction too much. I came on the air the other night and said, even though they've lost to the Rangers the last 2 times, I would still pick them to win a playoff series against the Rangers. And the Zucker injury does not change that for me. He's kind of like not an insurance policy, but he's kind of like a cherry on top, Bob. He's been out of sight, out of mind for so long that I don't look at him as the type of player that the Penguins necessarily need in order to win a Stanley Cup.
Well, I think it doesn't hurt to help a guy like that who could put in 25 goals when he's healthy. So that's a loss, and it also means it affects the other lines now, because someone's got to go up. The Raquel
But do you disagree with me?
One.
Would you pick the Rangers now? Would you take the Rangers to beat them in a series based on a potential Zucker long-term injury?
I think right now that's a long series, and I would edge the Rangers. I do at this point.
Wow.
But I also think the Penguins are capable of going on a long
Shesterkin's never done diddly squat, Bob. He's never won a playoff series. We don't know how he's going to respond.
we don't know how Jari's going to respond after what happened last year, although I'm very encouraged by what I've seen. So I think Tristan Jari's answered that bell, but it'll be ringing a lot louder in the playoffs. There's no question about that. And Shesterkin's never done it, but they believe in him. And when he's in there, he's been really good. So, all right, we got to take a break. We got calls on the way. It's 412-575-2600. I also want to give a shout out to Rosemary DeBecco. So I went out to dinner tonight, picked out some food from de Blasio's down there in Green Tree Road. Great place for Italian, Andrew. And she's over there with her walker. And she comes out, she's 96 years old. She watches the show religiously. So Rosemary DeBecco, continued success at 96. Whatever she's doing, I want that recipe. We'll be back as we continue live right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.